Let's take him to the wasteland. Thanks for the heal. Let the kitsune guide you.
Oh my god, I think, oh my god, dude, yes! Oh my god, that works so good. After a clown show of mishaps and fallouts over the last few years within the Overwatch and Blizzard team, Overwatch is back from the grave and jolted to life with the release of Overwatch 2 this week. While I have a glowing list of things to say about the changes made in Overwatch 2, the team did get hit with a DDoS attack on release day that crippled the servers. It was a nightmare trying to get into the game day one, and they are still working on getting the servers fully healthy and optimized for everyone. I will dive deeper into that issue and also cover the quality of life improvements, new maps, game modes, heroes, and how 5v5 really feels. There's a lot to cover, so let's go. I'll get the bad and the ugly out of the way before diving into how much I actually love this game. Overwatch 2 is scheduled to go live at noon Pacific on October 4th, and with great excitement came utter disappointment when nobody could get into the game. The queue times were showing upwards of 30,000 people, with the final result being a red bar saying unable to connect.
No!
The frustrations were and are still understandably high because so many people wanted to play the new game. As of writing this video, I am still having to try over and over to get into the server. Is it annoying? Absolutely. But knowing they got DDoS and are trying to get the servers to a healthy state makes it an easier pill to swallow. Spin Zone, if there wasn't a lot of people wanting to play this game, we wouldn't be seeing tens of thousands of people in the queue and having server issues on launch day. While it's never an ideal problem to have, it's validating to see that people are dying to play Overwatch 2. Now let's just hope the servers get stable before people truly give up. With the server issues out of the way, it's time to talk about the fun stuff. The most notable change from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2 is the removal of a tank going from 6v6 to 5v5. While there are game modes we will get into later that let you play more than one tank, you will not be able to duo tank in competitive game modes. As a tank main, off tank specifically, I was very concerned about how much of my playstyle will need to adjust to the 5v5 change. I kept my reservations about not having a yin and yang relationship with another tank, and after playing, I can confidently say that the changes are refreshing and revitalize the tank position. Will you get punished quicker than before if you're out of position or overextending? Most definitely. But it's a liberating feeling knowing that the mistakes are something you can fix on your own and not be at the mercy of your off tank. This is not a shot at other tank partners, but rather the liberating feeling of not feeling like your success directly relies on your tank partner. The Overwatch team understandably did a complete rework of all the tanks since they have to run the show solo on the front lines. Across the board, each tank received a buff in health or armor and improved movement for most of the tanks. There are other small changes to each character, but the big changes stated are what makes the tanks feel viable but not overpowered. The tanks feel very strong in 1v1s against squishy characters, but you're not taking on more than 2 enemies with an expectation to win that duel. In regards to the DPS role, it feels great knowing you don't have to wait an eternity for queue times to play the role anymore. That is hands down the biggest win for DPS players in the 5v5 change. Outside of new heroes and a few reworks to some of the more niche DPS players, not much changed to their kit. What changes for them, in my opinion, is their responsibility as a DPS player. Great DPS players always synergize well with their tanks and support, but it wasn't always necessary because of the access of the off tank. With the second tank gone, some of the peel responsibility now falls on the DPS players. They don't have to be peeling gods, but if your healers are getting harassed, it might be on your DPS to help them out now. For support, nothing has changed too much outside of the passive healing that all support players now get. That was previously exclusive to Mercy, but with the removal of a tank, the self-healing helps support players survive longer without needing as much peel. Support still needs peel to prevent getting the backline decimated from dive, but the passive heals now give support players a chance to win a 1v1 and still be able to help their team out afterwards instead of begging for heals or leaving to find a health pack. The other major change to Overwatch 2 is the transition from loot boxes to a battle pass system. Considering every game has a battle pass now, it is not that surprising that Overwatch went this route, but it does change how progression is done. All cosmetics like sprays, skins, voice lines, trinkets, and even new characters are now in the battle pass. From first glance, the battle pass is solid with a variety of content for new and old characters alike. My only gripe with the content aspect of the Battle Pass is how underwhelming the free version of the pass is. I know you'll never get the best content from the free Battle Pass, but they limited it so much that it feels like they're forcing you to buy the Battle Pass if you want any additional content. Personally, I like the Battle Pass system because before, you're just hoping you don't get duplicates when opening loot boxes. Now you have the luxury of knowing when and how you will get the new content without worrying about duplicates and feeling like you're playing loot box roulette. My only other gripe about the Battle Pass is the shop aspect of the game. I'm not against companies charging real money for cosmetics because every AAA title under the sun has been doing it for a while, but when you're asking $20 for a skin and it looks like a base skin with a green colorway, then it's a bad look. I'm hoping they adjust the pricing quickly because we've seen in the past how expensive microtransactions can hurt a game. I'm looking at you, Halo Infinite and Gran Turismo 7. I'll kick it off with the new game mode since most of the new maps revolve around the new push game mode. A quick synopsis of push is that your goal is to move your team's block further than the opponent moves theirs. There's a robot that moves each said block and you can only move the robot to your team's direction if no opponent is occupying the same space. I personally enjoy the game mode because it's the first game mode in Overwatch that puts a major emphasis on team positioning and full map utilization. After winning a team fight, it's more important to get your team forward and in an advantageous position than having a bunch of people on the robot to push their payload. I think people will initially dislike push because of these fundamental changes to what you need to do as a team for the game mode, but I think it will quickly become a very likable and popular game mode. With the addition of push game modes comes the much needed removal of the 2CP game mode. Yep, that's right, no longer will you spend 40 minutes in a 2CP game for it to end in a draw. Sometimes the best changes to a game aren't what is added, but is what's taken away. And I could not be happier to see 2CP walk out that door. With these changes to game modes comes the addition and removal of new and old maps alike. To start, the new maps accompanying the new push game mode are Coliseo, Esperanza, and New Queen Street. I'm sure I butchered those first two, but I gave it the old college try. I personally enjoy all three push maps because I feel like they're providing a different look and feel than other game modes maps. Most of the other maps in Overwatch have dedicated lanes similar to a MOBA map. I feel like the push maps have more flanking and alternate path opportunities that make the fights for the robot exciting and a little more unpredictable. I do think some of the spawn locations need to be adjusted when you're close to completing the final push, but I do think Overwatch's team intentionally made it difficult to fully cap on these push maps. The other new maps released are Paraseo and Midtown for the hybrid game mode and Circuit Royale for the escort game mode. I really like Midtown and Circuit Royale, but I have my reservations for Paraseo. It's not that I dislike Paraseo, but it is one of the few maps that has a ton of nooks and crannies while also providing a multitude of high ground angles. I'm not saying high ground angles are bad, but after capping point A, it has proven to be difficult to get through the streets portion because of how many different sightlines have to be accounted for. Personally, I'm just glad that none of the new maps have given off any Paris or Lunar Colony vibes after playing them. If you know what I mean, you definitely know what I mean. The last noticeable change they made to game modes is how the competitive ranking system works. In Overwatch 1, it was an SR ranking number that would go up and down after every game based on your win or loss. Now, instead of a number that changes each match, it is a tiered system with 5 levels in each rank. The rankings go from 5 to 1, with 1 being the highest in each respective rank. In order to get an update to your rank, you'll have to win 7 games or lose 20 games to get a new ranking. This should help prevent losing a lot of SR from bad losses or disconnecting teammates. From my own experience, it does look like they're initially placing players lower than what they think they should be, but I'm okay with that because it feels like the first true SR reset Overwatch has had in 6 years. You can't call Overwatch 2 a new game without adding some new heroes. Quick tangent, I don't really consider the PvP portion of Overwatch 2 to be a sequel, but rather a massive update. I wholeheartedly believe the true quote sequel will be the PvE portions of Overwatch 2 coming at a later date. Anyways, it can't be a proper upgrade without some shiny new heroes to test out on the battlefield. Junker Queen and Sojourn, the 2 new heroes playable in the Overwatch 2 beta, are joining the crew for free, while the newest support hero Kiriko is available through the Battle Pass. The dev teams made Kiriko accessible for anyone who had previously played Overwatch 1, so if you did not play Overwatch 1, you can access Kiriko at level 55 of the free Battle Pass, or unlock her instantly with the $10 purchase of the Premium Battle Pass. With the PvP portion of Overwatch going free to play, I'm not surprised that new characters will be part of the Battle Pass system to encourage players to either purchase the Premium Battle Pass or grind out the free version. For a quick breakdown of each character, Junker Queen is essentially a Roadhog-like character equipped with a throwing knife and the passive ability to inflict bleeding damage. She's a punishing tank up close with great closing speed, but can be countered with ranged characters. Sojourn is essentially Soldier on steroids. Her railgun builds up charge the more you hit enemies, and when fully charged, it can one-shot squishies with a headshot. Luckily for everyone else, her gun is a projectile weapon and not hit scan. But man, her shots hurt and is a very dangerous and viable DPS player. The last and newest character is the support hero, Kiriko. The best way to explain her is calling her a healing Genji. Her throwing knives are hard to hit, but when you do, my god, do they do absolute work. Her kit feels the most diverse in the class because of the ability to produce high damage, decent healing output, and have the best maneuverability for a support hero outside of Lucio. Add her swift step ability to the mix, which makes teammates invulnerable for a brief moment, and you're looking at arguably one of the best healers in the game. I love the way that all three of the new characters play and how they synergize into the Overwatch hero pool. Do the new characters feel strong? Of course they do, but that's kind of expected because the dev teams likely want you to play new heroes that they've worked so hard on adding into the game. With new maps, modes, and characters added to the mix to spice up the Overwatch scene, they complemented these changes with some much needed quality of life improvements. One thing that stuck out to me the most was your ultimate percentage transferring when you switch characters. I think this is great because it encourages changing characters to counter what the enemy team is putting out there. Back in Overwatch 1, it happened all too often where teammates would identify what characters we need to switch, but the switches would either never happen or happen too late because the character had 80% on their ultimate and didn't want to lose it. With that issue being gone, I think it will encourage more switching, which results in more competitive games. Another great change is the addition of objects within all maps to provide cover for players now that there are less shields and tanks in the game. I was so concerned about how survivability was going to factor into everything going down one tank. The team accounted for this by implementing additional cover in the original maps that allow players to find safe cover that doesn't involve a teammate's shield. It sounds like such a small thing, but it was something I instantly noticed and quickly appreciated. One of the surprising changes for me was that players that aren't the party leader now have the ability to cancel queue. This probably doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is very helpful because I can't tell you how many times my friends and I would queue up for a game thinking we were all ready, only to find out one of us was AFK and we would lose them to inactivity before the game even started. Another welcome change is the in-game leaderboard showing stats from all players on both teams. This makes it so much easier to identify pain points within team comp while also helping identify the most dangerous players on the other team. I was expecting the expanded leaderboard to cause more toxicity and finger pointing, but so far, emphasis on so far here, so far there hasn't been finger pointing because of the leaderboard. Do you still get the tank diff, healer diff, DPS diff comments from time to time? Sure. But overall, I think the leaderboard helps alleviate the bickering back and forth over who has gold damage and elims. I'm throwing this last one under quality of life, but I don't know how I feel about this one. New players will have to win 50 quick play matches to unlock competitive game modes and roughly 100 matches to unlock all of the original Overwatch characters. I'm all for creating tutorials or implementing systems that help new players learn the nuances of Overwatch without overwhelming them. On the surface, Overwatch doesn't look or feel like a complex game, but once you sink your teeth into it, you realize how deep it is. For example, a new player likely wouldn't know about team composition, creating space, target prioritization, map knowledge, map positioning, game mode tactics, character counters, team synergies, dive comps, rush comps, bunker comps, character kit optimization, feeding, throwing, overextending. I think you get the picture, and you can see how that might be a lot to take in for a new player. I love that they're finding ways to make the first time experience a good one, but it makes me nervous that 50 wins and 100 games feels a bit like gatekeeping. At the end of the day, I think this is the best return to form Overwatch has had in 3 or 4 years. It's still an uphill climb to win back the favor of all the fans they lost over the last couple years, but it feels like a very, very promising start on that redemption tour. I have full confidence that the servers will be healthy and working within the next few days, so I'm not going to crucify them for the server issues at launch. The Overwatch team appears to be holding their end of the bargain in regards to their content roadmap and what the future holds for Overwatch 2. I couldn't be more excited. If you've never played Overwatch before, I would highly recommend jumping in now because the game feels fresh and more alive than it's been over the last few years. I'm writing this as a very happy man knowing that a game I fell in love with is finally ready to love us all back. There's still more work to do, but Overwatch 2 has me excited for the future and happy with the current state of the game. Have you played Overwatch 2 yet, or are you still having server issues like many of us out there? Let me know in the comments because I would love to hear about your experiences with Overwatch 2 so far. While you're there, please show some love and hit that like and subscribe button. It helps me out so much and lets me know you're enjoying the content. This has been Josh Robinson with Joystick Gamer. Thanks again, and stay gaming out there.